I'd worked at Vincenzo's for 3 years, and I'd learned one universal truth. Money didn't just talk in this city it commanded, it threatened, and it owned. The restaurant sat in the heart of downtown, where marble floors gleamed under crystal chandeliers, and every table cost more than my monthly rent. I was invisible here, just another waitress in black, refilling glasses and clearing plates while the elite discussed deals that could topple empires. That night started like any other. I balanced a tray of champagne flutes, weaving through tables where women dripped in diamonds, and men spoke in hushed tones about numbers I couldn't fathom. The kitchen was chaos, Chef Marco screaming about timing, servers colliding near the double doors, but out here, everything was controlled elegance. Then the front door opened, and the entire restaurant held its breath. I didn't understand why at first. I was refilling water at table 7 when I felt that shift in the air, like the moment before lightning strikes. Conversations died mid-sentence. Silverware stopped clinking. Even the piano player's fingers hesitated on the keys. I turned. He walked in like he owned not just the restaurant, but the very oxygen we breathed. Tall, over 6 feet easily, with shoulders that filled his tailored black suit, like it had been sewn directly onto him. Dark hair swept back, revealing sharp cheekbones and a jawline that could cut glass. But it was his eyes that made my heart stutter, dark, calculating, and absolutely devoid of warmth. They scanned the room with the casual dominance of a predator surveying his territory. 4 men flanked him, moving in perfect synchronization. They weren't bodyguards, they were extensions of his will, dressed in dark suits that barely concealed the weapons I knew they carried. Every server suddenly found urgent tasks that kept them far from the entrance. "Sophia," Marco's voice hissed through the kitchen window. "Table 1, now." I felt the weight of every employee's relief that they hadn't been chosen. Table 1 was the corner booth, positioned for maximum privacy and visibility. The power seat. I grabbed my notepad, forced my hand steady, and approached. Up close, he was even more devastating. His cologne was subtle, something expensive that whispered rather than announced. A scar cut through his left eyebrow, the only imperfection on an otherwise flawless face. His hands rested on the table, and I noticed his knuckles were slightly discolored, the kind of marks that came from violence, not accidents. "Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to Vincenzo's." My voice came out steadier than I felt. "Can I start you with something to drink?" His eyes lifted to mine, and for a moment, I forgot how to breathe. They were brown, almost black, and they studied me with an intensity that made me feel stripped bare. "McAllen, 30-year?" His voice was low, rough around the edges, like whiskey and smoke. "Neat." The men around him ordered bourbon, scotch, but I barely heard them. I couldn't look away from him. "And the lady?" I asked, noticing the empty seat beside him. Something flickered in his expression. "There is no lady." The silence stretched. One of his men shifted uncomfortably. I nodded, scribbling the orders. "I'll have those right out." When I returned with their drinks, he was speaking in rapid Italian to the man on his left. I set the McAllen in front of him, and his hand brushed mine as he reached for it. The contact lasted less than a second, but electricity shot up my arm. He froze mid-sentence, his eyes snapping to mine. I pulled my hand back quickly. "Your server tonight will be you," he interrupted. "You'll be our server." It wasn't a request. "Of course." I managed a professional smile. "Are you ready to order? Or would you like a few minutes?" "The ribeye, rare." His gaze never left my face. "You have a recommendation?" I blinked. Men like him didn't ask servers for recommendations. They ordered what they wanted and expected perfection. "The truffle risotto," I said honestly. "It's Chef Marco's specialty. He sources the truffles from from Piedmont," he corrected, his tone flat. "Alba is in Piedmont." The table went silent. His men exchanged glances, some amused, others alarmed. Nobody corrected him. Nobody ever corrected him. But he was wrong. "Alba is a town in Piedmont," I said carefully, keeping my voice even. "I wasn't disagreeing with you. I was being specific about where in Piedmont the truffles come from." The silence became suffocating. His eyes darkened, and for a terrifying moment, I thought I'd made a catastrophic mistake. One of his men actually reached inside his jacket, a subtle movement, but I saw it. Then something unexpected happened. His lips curved into the ghost of a smile. Not warm, not friendly, but intrigued. You're right. He lifted his glass, studying me over the rim. What's your name? Sophia. Sophia. He repeated it slowly, like he was memorizing the syllables. How long have you worked here? 3 years. And in 3 years, how many people have corrected me in my own restaurant? My stomach dropped. His restaurant? I didn't mean to answer the question, Sophia. His tone wasn't angry. It was curious, almost fascinated, which somehow felt more dangerous. I wasn't correcting you, I said carefully. I was clarifying. One of his men coughed, possibly covering a laugh. The man in charge, because he clearly was in charge of everything, set his glass down with deliberate precision. He stood, and suddenly he was towering over me, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. Do you know who I am? He asked softly. I should have lied. I should have played dumb, apologized, backed away. No, I whispered. Should I? His smile widened fractionally, and something flickered in those dark eyes. Surprise, perhaps, or something more dangerous. He leaned in, his breath warm against my ear. Then you're either very brave or very foolish, Piccola. Before I could respond, before I could process the way my body reacted to his proximity, he stepped back. Bring me the risotto, he said. And Sophia? He waited until I met his eyes. Don't ever lie to me. I nodded, not trusting my voice, and walked back to the kitchen on trembling legs. I didn't know who he was, but as I pushed through the kitchen doors and saw every employee staring at me with expressions ranging from horror to disbelief, I realized I'd just done something either incredibly stupid or irreversibly life-changing, and the way his eyes had burned into mine told me I was about to find out which. The kitchen erupted the moment the doors swung shut behind me. Are you insane? Marco grabbed my arm, his face pale beneath his chef's hat. Do you have any idea what you just did? I was doing my job, I said, confused by the panic in his eyes. What's wrong? What's wrong? He laughed a high, strained sound. Sophia, that's Dante Moretti. The name meant nothing to me, but clearly it should have. The line cooks had abandoned their stations. Even Luis, who never stopped working, stood frozen with a ladle in his hand. Who is Dante Moretti? I asked slowly. Marco released my arm and ran both hands through his hair. He owns this restaurant. He owns half the restaurants in this city, and that's just the legitimate businesses. He lowered his voice. The Moretti family controls everything that happens in this city. Everything. And you just corrected him like he was some tourist who can't read a menu. The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. Mafia. I'd corrected a mafia boss in front of his men. Oh God. I leaned against the counter, my professional composure crumbling. Oh God, Marco, what do I do? You finish your shift. His voice was tight. You serve him perfectly. You smile, you nod, you do not speak unless spoken to, and you pray he found it amusing instead of insulting. The risotto order came up. I stared at the plate like it might explode. Sophia. Marco gripped my shoulders. Listen to me. The fact that you're still breathing is a good sign. He usually doesn't tolerate disrespect. But something about you. He shook his head. Just be careful. Men like Dante Moretti don't forget faces. I didn't want him to remember mine, but as I carried the risotto back through the dining room, I felt his eyes on me before I even reached the table. He tracked my movement like a hawk watching prey, and everyone else in the restaurant seemed to sense it. Conversations remained muted. Nobody looked directly at table 1. Your risotto, Mr. Moretti. I set it down carefully, keeping my eyes lowered. Look at me, Sophia. It wasn't a request. Nothing about Dante Moretti was ever a request. I raised my eyes, and the intensity in his gaze stole my breath. He studied me like I was a puzzle he intended to solve, piece by piece. Tell me, he said, cutting into the risotto with surgical precision. Why aren't you afraid of me? I am afraid of you, I admitted. Lying seemed far more dangerous than honesty. Yet you corrected me anyway. I didn't know who you were. And now that you do? He took a bite, his eyes never leaving mine. How does that change things? I swallowed hard. It doesn't change the fact that Alba is in Piedmont. One of his men choked on his drink. Another made the sign of the cross. But Dante's lips curved into that ghost of a smile again, and this time it reached his eyes just barely, just enough to make him look almost human. No, he agreed softly. It doesn't. He gestured to the empty seat beside him. Sit. I can't. I'm working. Sophia. My name sounded different in his mouth, possessive, commanding. When I tell you to do something, you do it. Understand? My legs moved before my brain could protest. I slid into the booth beside him, hyper-aware of the minimal space between us. His thigh pressed against mine, solid, warm, deliberate. Marco will fire me, I whispered. Marco works for me. Dante's voice was matter-of-fact. Everyone here works for me, including you, whether you realized it or not. He poured wine into an empty glass, deep red, probably worth more than my car, and set it in front of me. I don't drink on shift. You do now. Our eyes locked in a silent battle of wills. I saw the exact moment he expected me to submit, to look away, to acknowledge his dominance. Instead, I picked up the glass and took a small sip. The wine was extraordinary, smooth, complex, probably older than me. Something flickered in his expression. Approval? Intrigue? Tell me about yourself, he commanded. What do you want to know? Everything. I laughed, a nervous, breathless sound. That's a lot of information for someone who won't even tell me why I'm sitting here. His hand moved, slow and deliberate, until his fingers brushed my wrist where it rested on the table. The touch was barely there, but it burned. You're sitting here because I want you here, he said simply. Because in 3 years, nobody has challenged me in my own establishment. Because you looked me in the eye when men twice your size wouldn't dare. His fingers traced a small circle on my pulse point. Because you're either the bravest woman I've ever met, or you have no sense of self-preservation whatsoever. Maybe both, I breathed. His smile became real then, still dangerous, still edged with darkness, but genuine. It transformed his face, making him devastating instead of merely terrifying. I'm 26, I said, my voice steadier now despite my racing heart. I've lived in this city my whole life. I work here and take night classes at the community college. I want to be a teacher. I have a cat named Hemingway. I hate horror movies. And my favorite color is green, he interrupted. Like your eyes. I blinked. How did you... I noticed things, Sophia. His hand moved from my wrist to my face, one finger tracing my jawline with devastating gentleness. Especially things that interest me. The air between us crackled with electricity. His men had stopped existing. The restaurant had stopped existing. There was only him, this beautiful, dangerous man who looked at me like I was something he intended to keep. Mr. Moretti. Dante, he corrected. When we're alone, you call me Dante. We're not alone. We're in a restaurant full of people. His eyes darkened with something that made my stomach flip. We're always alone, Piccola. They're just furniture. Before I could respond, his phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen and his entire demeanor shifted. The warmth vanished, replaced by cold calculation. He stood, and his men immediately rose with him. I have business to attend to. He pulled out his wallet, extracting a black card that he pressed into my hand. Your shift ends at midnight? Yes, but a car will be waiting for you. I don't need. He leaned down, his lips a breath away from my ear. This isn't negotiable, Sophia. You corrected me tonight. Now you belong to me until I decide otherwise. Fear and something darker twisted through my stomach. What does that mean? It means, he whispered, his breath warm against my skin, that you just became the most dangerous woman in this city. Anyone who wants to hurt me will try to hurt you. So you'll accept my protection, you'll get in the car, and you'll do exactly as you're told. He pulled back, his eyes boring into mine. Or people will die, starting with everyone you love. He walked away before I could respond, his men falling into formation around him. The restaurant exhaled collectively as the door closed behind them. I sat frozen, his black card clutched in my trembling hand, wondering how a simple geography correction had just destroyed my entire life. I tried to leave through the back entrance. The moment I pushed open the service door at 11:50, a man materialized from the shadows. Tall, built like a wall, with a scar running down his cheek and eyes that had seen too much violence. Miss Romano. His voice was surprisingly gentle. Mr. Moretti is expecting you at the front. I'm walking home, I said firmly. Tell Mr. Moretti thank you, but I don't need a... It wasn't a request. He gestured toward the front of the building, not threatening but absolutely unyielding. The car is waiting. My heart hammered as I walked back through the now empty restaurant. Marco had disappeared the moment my shift ended, probably wanting nothing to do with whatever mess I'd gotten myself into. The cleaning crew kept their heads down as I passed. Outside, a black Mercedes idled at the curb. The scarred man opened the back door. I live 3 blocks from here. I tried one more time. This is really unnecessary. 3 blocks is plenty of distance for something bad to happen. He met my eyes. Mr. Moretti's enemies don't need much time. Please, Miss Romano, get in the car. The interior smelled like leather and something distinctly masculine, the same cologne Dante had worn. My stomach fluttered at the realization that this was probably his personal vehicle. The scarred man slid into the driver's seat. I'm Marco. Different Marco than your chef. I head Mr. Moretti's security detail. You'll be seeing a lot of me. I really don't think that's necessary. You corrected the most powerful man in the city in front of his captains. Marco's eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. Every family we're at war with now knows you exist. They know he sat you down in public, touched you, smiled at you. You think that doesn't mean something? It doesn't mean anything. I was just doing my job. You stopped being just anything the moment Dante Moretti decided you were interesting. We pulled up outside my building, a modest 3-story walk-up in a neighborhood that had seen better decades. Suddenly, it felt exposed, vulnerable. I'll walk you up, Marco said. Check your apartment. That's really Miss Romano. His tone was patient but firm. I've worked for the Moretti family for 15 years. I've seen what happens to people they care about when security gets lax. Let me do my job, and maybe you'll live long enough to decide if you hate him or not. Hate him? The word felt wrong. What I felt toward Dante Moretti was complicated fear. Certainly, but also a magnetic pull I couldn't explain. The way he'd looked at me, touched me, as if I was already his. I unlocked my apartment, and Marco swept through with professional efficiency. He checked closets, windows, even under the bed. Hemingway watched from the couch, completely unconcerned by the large man with a gun inspecting our home. Your window locks are a joke, Marco said flatly. I'll have someone upgrade them tomorrow. And this fire escape. He stepped out onto the rusted metal platform. This is how they'll come if they come. You sleep with your bedroom door locked, understand? This is insane. Nobody's coming after me. I'm nobody. You stopped being nobody at approximately 7:43 tonight. He handed me a cell phone. Expensive, new, definitely not mine. This is programmed with one number. You call if anything feels wrong. Anything. A strange car on your street, a person you don't recognize, a sound that doesn't fit. You call and I'll be here in 3 minutes. I took the phone numbly. Where did Dante even get my address? Marco's expression suggested the answer was obvious. He owns half the city, Miss Romano. He knows everything about you by now. Where you live, where you go to school, your class schedule, your bank balance, probably what you ate for breakfast last Tuesday. The invasion of privacy should have made me angry. Instead, I felt something darker, something I didn't want to examine too closely. Get some sleep, Marco said, heading for the door. Tomorrow's going to be complicated. Wait, what happens tomorrow? He paused in the doorway. You'll find out when Mr. Moretti decides you should know. The lock clicked behind him, and I stood alone in my tiny apartment that suddenly felt like a cell. I should have been terrified. I should have been planning my escape, maybe calling the police, though something told me the police wouldn't help against a man like Dante Moretti. Instead, I found myself staring at the black card he'd given me, just his name embossed in silver. Dante Moretti. No title, no explanation. He didn't need one. My phone, my real phone, buzzed. Unknown number. Did Marco get you home safely? My breath caught. I stared at the message, knowing exactly who'd sent it. Yes, this is unnecessary. The response came immediately. Nothing about keeping you safe is unnecessary, Sophia. You don't even know me. I know enough. What do you want from me? The typing indicator appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, everything, my hands, trembled as I typed back. I'm not interested in your world. You became part of my world the moment you looked me in the eye and refused to back down. There's no going back from that, Piccola. There has to be. I'm just a waitress. Find someone else to be interested in. The phone rang, the new one Marco had given me. I stared at it, my heart pounding. It rang 3 times before I answered. Hello? Listen to me very carefully. Dante's voice was low, dangerous, with an edge that made my skin prickle. I don't have casual interests. I don't forget faces. And I certainly don't let go of things I decide belong to me. I don't belong to anyone. You belong to me. Each word was deliberate. Absolute. I decided that the moment you corrected me, the moment you sat beside me without being asked twice, the moment you took that wine and drank it while looking me in the eye like you were my equal. I am your equal. Every human being is. You're more than my equal, Sophia. You're my match. You just don't know it yet. Silence stretched between us, heavy with implications I didn't want to understand. Why me? I whispered finally. You could have anyone. Why the waitress who embarrassed you? His laugh was dark, rich. You didn't embarrass me, Piccola. You fascinated me. And fascination is far more dangerous than embarrassment. Dante, go to sleep, Sophia. Dream of me, because I guarantee I'll be dreaming of you. The line went dead. I stood in my dark apartment, clutching a phone that represented a world I'd never wanted to enter, and realized with terrifying certainty that Dante Moretti wasn't giving me a choice. He'd decided I was his, and men like him always got what they wanted. I woke to pounding on my door and Hemingway hissing from under the bed. 6 a.m. Too early for visitors. Too early for problems. I grabbed my robe, checked the peephole, and found 2 men in suits, not Marco, but clearly cut from the same dangerous cloth. Miss Romano, delivery. I cracked the door open, keeping the chain locked. I didn't order anything. It's from Mr. Plain, Moretti. The older one held a massive bouquet of deep red roses, at least 3 dozen, arranged with white lilies, and something that looked expensive and European. Behind him, the younger man carried garment bags. I can't accept. Ma'am. The older man's tone was respectful but firm. Refusing, Mr. Moretti's gifts would be unwise, please. I unlatched the chain, and they swept in with military efficiency. The flowers went on my small dining table, immediately overwhelming the space with their beauty and heavy scent. The garment bags were hung carefully on my bedroom door. Mr. Moretti requests your presence at Cafe Bella at noon, the older man said, handing me a cream envelope. Address is inside. Marco will collect you at 11:30. The clothing is for today, but feel free to choose what makes you comfortable. They were gone before I could protest. The roses had a card. For the woman brave enough to correct me, wear the green dress. D. Inside the garment bags, I found 4 outfits, all designer, all in my exact size, all disturbingly perfect for my taste. Casual but elegant. The green dress was silk. Simple but stunning. Probably worth more than I made in a month. He'd somehow learned my size, my style, my color preference, all in less than 12 hours. I should have been disturbed. Instead, I ran my fingers over the silk and felt something dangerous unfurl in my chest. My real phone rang. Emma, my best friend and roommate at the community college. Please tell me you're alive, she said without preamble. You never texted me last night and I had actual nightmares about you being chopped up by the mob. That's extremely specific. Sophia, did something happen at work? I stared at the roses, the dresses, the evidence of Dante Moretti's determination. Define something. Oh my God, what did you do? I told her everything, the correction. The conversation, the car, the phone, the gifts. The line went silent so long I thought she'd hung up. Emma, you corrected Dante Moretti. Her voice was strangled. You corrected Dante Moretti. Why does everyone keep saying it like that? Because he once broke a man's hand for looking at him wrong during a business meeting. Because his family controls everything from shipping to City Hall. Because he's gorgeous and dangerous and completely untouchable. And you, she laughed, slightly hysterical. You told him he was wrong about Italian geography. He was wrong. Sophia Marie Romano, I love you. But sometimes your dedication to accuracy is going to get you killed. He doesn't want to kill me. He wants to. I don't know what he wants. Oh, honey. Emma's voice softened. I think you know exactly what he wants. Question is, what do you want? I looked at the green dress, remembered the way Dante's fingers had felt tracing my jaw, the heat in his eyes when he'd called me his match. I don't know, I whispered. I'm terrified of him, Em. But when he looks at me, I feel alive? Insane. I feel insane. Maybe that's the same thing. At 11:30, I was wearing the green dress and hating how perfect it felt. Marco arrived precisely on time, his expression approving when he saw my choice. "Good," he said simply. "He'll like that." Café Bella was in the heart of the city's historic district, the kind of place where celebrities and politicians had discreet meetings. We were ushered past the waiting area, through the main dining room, to a private terrace overlooking the river. Dante stood with his back to me, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Italian. He wore dark slacks and a white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms corded with muscle and traced with what looked like old scars. He sensed my presence, and turned. The way his eyes traveled down my body should have made me feel objectified. Instead, I felt worshipped, desired, claimed. "I'll call you back," he said into the phone, never breaking eye contact with me. Something more important just arrived. He closed the distance between us in 3 strides, and suddenly I could barely breathe. This close, in daylight, he was even more devastating. The sun caught gold flecks in his dark eyes. The scar through his eyebrow was from a knife. I realized too clean to be an accident. "You wore the dress." His voice was rough with satisfaction. "You said to. And you listened." His fingers caught a strand of my hair, rubbing it between his fingers like he was testing its texture. "I wasn't sure you would. I'm still deciding if that makes me smart or stupid." His lips curved. "Smart. Very smart." He gestured to the table. "Sit." "Have you eaten?" "I don't understand what this is," I said, not moving. "You're acting like we're on a date, but you basically threatened me into coming here." "I didn't threaten you. I stated facts. You're in danger now, whether you want to be or not. The safest place for you is with me. And conveniently, that's exactly where you want me. Convenient has nothing to do with it." He stepped closer, and I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. "I want you because you're brilliant and brave, and you looked at me like I was just a man instead of a monster. Do you understand how rare that is? How intoxicating? You barely know me. I know you grew up in foster care." His voice was matter-of-fact, and I froze. "I know you put yourself through school working 3 jobs. I know you send money to your foster mother in Nevada every month even though she never treated you well. I know you read Hemingway to your cat because it makes you feel less alone. I know you're terrified of failure, but you apply to teaching programs anyway because you want to help kids like you were." Tears stung my eyes. "You had no right, I had every right." His hands cupped my face, gentle despite the steel in his voice. "You're mine to protect now, Sophia. That means I learn everything. Every fear, every dream, every secret. Nothing about you is hidden from me anymore." "That's not protection. That's control. In my world, they're the same thing." His thumb brushed away a tear I didn't realize had fallen. "But I'll never hurt you. That's a promise I don't make lightly." "What do you want from me?" My voice broke on the question. His eyes softened, and for a moment, I saw past the Mafia boss to the man beneath someone lonely, someone hungry for something real. "I want you to trust me," he said quietly. "I want you to let me show you that my world isn't just darkness. I want—" His phone rang, shattering the moment. He glanced at the screen and his entire demeanor changed, jaw tightening, eyes going cold. "I have to take this," he answered in Italian, his tone clipped and dangerous. "When?" A pause. "How many?" Another pause, then. "Find them. I don't care what it takes." He hung up and looked at me, his expression grim. "We need to leave, now." "What's wrong?" "Someone just tried to kill my brother." His hand closed around mine, firm and possessive. "And they left a message specifically about you." My blood turned to ice. "What kind of message?" His jaw clenched. "The kind that means you're moving in with me tonight, and anyone who objects is going to die." Dante's estate was a fortress disguised as a palace. We drove through downtown into the hills, where old money lived behind gates and privacy hedges. His property sprawled across what must have been 5 acres walls, topped with security cameras, guards at every entrance, gardens that looked professionally maintained. The mansion itself was Mediterranean style, all cream stone and arched windows, beautiful and intimidating in equal measure. "This is temporary," I said as Marco pulled through the gates. "I'm not staying here." Dante's hand tightened on mine. He hadn't released it since we'd left the cafe. "You're staying until I eliminate the threat. You can't just decide, Sophia." He turned to face me, and the raw intensity in his eyes stole my breath. My brother is in surgery right now with 2 bullets in his chest. The men who shot him left a photo of you on his body with your eyes crossed out. This isn't a discussion. Horror washed over me. Oh God, is he going to survive? Luca is strong. He'll live. His jaw clenched, but they made their message clear. They know about you. They know you matter to me. And they will use that. This is my fault. No. His voice turned sharp. This is the Russo family trying to start a war. You're just the excuse they chose. If it wasn't you, it would be something else. The car stopped in front of the main entrance. Dante helped me out, his hand at the small of my back, proprietary and protective. Inside was even more breathtaking marble floors, original artwork, a grand staircase that belonged in a movie. Staff moved through the space, efficiently, nodding respectfully to Dante but keeping their distance. Your room is upstairs. He guided me toward the staircase. 3rd door on the left. Your things from the apartment are already here. Wait, you had people go through my apartment? I had people pack your necessities. You'll have everything you need. Dante, you can't just... He spun to face me, his eyes blazing. Yes, I can. I can and I will. And you're going to let me because the alternative is you dead in an alley somewhere while I watch security footage and lose my mind. His hands framed my face, trembling slightly. Do you understand? I have seen what these people do to send messages. I have cleaned up their statements. I will burn this entire city to the ground before I let them touch you. The raw emotion in his voice cracked something in my chest. This wasn't just about control or possession. He was genuinely terrified. Okay, I whispered. Okay, I'll stay. His forehead dropped to mine, and for a moment we just breathed together. Thank you, he said quietly. I know this isn't what you wanted, but I'll make it as comfortable as possible. A woman appeared at the top of the stairs, mid-50s, elegant, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Mr. Moretti, the guest room is prepared. Thank you, Rosa. This is Sophia. She'll be staying with us. Please make sure she has everything she needs. Rosa's gaze flickered over me, assessing. Of course. Miss Romano, if you'll follow me? Dante's hand lingered on mine before releasing. I have to go to the hospital. Rosa will show you around. Don't leave the grounds without Marco or one of my men. Please. The please softened the command, made it almost bearable. I followed Rosa up the grand staircase and down a hallway lined with photographs, candid shots of Dante, and another man I assumed was Luca, their mother. People I didn't recognize. A life I wasn't part of. This is your room. Rosa opened a door to reveal a suite that was easily twice the size of my entire apartment. King bed with cream linens, sitting area, private bathroom with a tub that could fit 3 people. My duffel bag looked pathetic sitting on the upholstered bench. Mr. Moretti has asked me to inform you that dinner is at 7, Rosa said. Dress is casual. The library is 2 doors down if you need something to read. The gym is on the 1st floor. Kitchen is always open. Help yourself to anything. Rosa? I caught her before she could leave. What's he like? Really? She studied me for a long moment. Mr. Moretti is a good man in a bad business. He takes care of the people he loves. Her expression softened slightly, and he hasn't looked at anyone the way he looks at you in the 3 years I've worked here. After she left, I explored the room, finding my clothes already unpacked, my toiletries arranged in the bathroom. Someone had even brought Hemingway. He was curled on the bed, looking utterly content. Traitor, I muttered, scratching behind his ears. The view from the window overlooked the gardens and, beyond them, the city skyline. From here, it all looked beautiful and distant, a world I was no longer part of. My new phone buzzed. Dante, how's the room? Bigger than my apartment. Good. That apartment was a closet. Despite everything, I smiled. It had character. It had rats and a fire escape held together with rust and prayers. You deserve better. You don't get to decide what I deserve. I already have Piccola. Get used to being spoiled. I wanted to argue, but exhaustion crashed over me. The adrenaline of the last 18 hours was wearing off, leaving me shaky and overwhelmed. I lay down on the bed, just for a moment. When I woke, the room was dark, and someone was sitting in the chair by the window. My heart jumped before I recognized his silhouette. Dante? I didn't mean to wake you. His voice was rough, tired. I just needed to see you, to know you were safe. I sat up, fumbling for the lamp. Light flooded the room, revealing him shirt-stained with what might have been blood, hair disheveled, eyes haunted. "Your brother?" "Out of surgery. He'll recover." He ran a hand over his face. But they shot him in front of his daughter, Sophia. His 8-year-old daughter watched her father bleed on the sidewalk. Oh God. She's staying here too now. With her mother. Everyone I care about under one roof where I can protect them. His eyes met mine. "Where I can protect you." I crossed the room before I could think better of it, kneeling in front of his chair. "This isn't your fault." "Everything is my fault." His hands clenched into fists. "Every bullet, every threat, every life destroyed because of this life I lead. And now you're part of it because I was selfish enough to want you. You didn't force me to correct you. You didn't force me to sit with you, to drink that wine, to wear this dress." I placed my hands over his fists, feeling them slowly relax. Maybe I wanted this, too. Maybe I'm tired of being invisible. His eyes locked on mine, dark, intense, desperate. "You could never be invisible, Sophia. You burn too bright." Then his mouth was on mine, stealing whatever response I might have made. The kiss was everything I'd imagined and nothing I was prepared for, possessive, hungry, but also tender. His hands tangled in my hair, angling my head to deepen the kiss, and I forgot how to think. I forgot about danger, about the blood on his shirt, about the fact that I barely knew him. I only knew that I was burning, and he was the flame. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. "I want you," he whispered. "God, Sophia, I want you so badly it terrifies me. But not like this. Not when you're scared and I'm covered in my brother's blood. Not until you're ready. What if I'm never ready for your world? Then I'll wait anyway." His lips brushed mine gently. "Because you're worth waiting for." He stood, pulling. "To me up with him." "Sleep, Piccola. Tomorrow I'll show you that not everything about my world is darkness." He was at the door when I found my voice. "Dante, thank you. For the protection. For keeping me safe." He looked back, and the smile he gave me was heartbreaking in its hope. "Thank you for letting me." The door closed softly behind him, and I touched my lips where I could still feel his kiss burning. I was falling for a man who controlled the darkness, and I was terrified of how much I wanted to let him catch me. I woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of fresh coffee. For a disorienting moment, I couldn't remember where I was. Then it all came crashing back, Dante. The threats, the kiss that had burned through every rational thought, a soft knock on the door. "Miss Romano, breakfast is ready." "Rosa." I sat up, finding a breakfast tray already on the bedside table. Cappuccino, fresh pastries, fruit. A note in bold handwriting. "I'll be in meetings. Until noon. Explore. The house is yours." I showered in the luxurious bathroom, dressed in jeans and a sweater from my duffel, and ventured downstairs. The mansion was less intimidating in daylight. Staff moved through the halls quietly, nodding politely. I found the library Dante had mentioned, floor-to-ceiling shelves, leather chairs, a massive fireplace, books in Italian, English, French, poetry, philosophy, crime novels. He reads the poetry when he can't sleep. I jumped, spinning to find a woman in the doorway, late 20s, beautiful in an exhausted way, with dark circles under her eyes and a little girl clutching her hand. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to intrude." I moved toward the door. "You're Sophia." It wasn't a question. "I'm Isabella, Luca's wife. This is Aria." The little girl stared at me with enormous brown eyes. "Are you Papa's angel?" My heart cracked. "What?" "Papa said an angel was keeping him safe. Are you her?" Isabella's expression was complicated gratitude mixed with something darker. "Aria, sweetie, why don't you go find Rosa? I think she made those cookies you like." After Aria left, Isabella's demeanor changed. "My husband was shot because of you." The words hit like a physical blow. "I know. I'm so sorry. If I could change it." "You can't." Her voice was flat. "But you need to understand what you've walked into. Dante doesn't do casual. He doesn't do temporary. If he's claimed you, it's forever. And forever in this family means blood and violence and watching the people you love bleed. I didn't ask for this. None of us do." She moved to the window, arms wrapped around herself. "I met Luca in college. He was sweet, charming, studying business. I didn't know his family was this. By the time I found out, I was pregnant and in love and trapped. Do you regret it? She was quiet for a long moment. Every day, and never. That's what this life is, constant contradiction. Loving someone who terrifies you. Being grateful for protection you never needed if you'd stayed away. Isabella, he'll consume you, Sophia. Dante is the worst of them because he feels everything so deeply. When he loves, it's absolute, possessive, suffocating. But also, her voice softened, it's the most intense thing you'll ever experience, being the center of Dante Moretti's world. I'm not the center of his world. We just met. She turned, and the look she gave me was almost pitying. You became the center the moment he decided you were his. That's how they are. That's what makes them so dangerous. Before I could respond, shouting erupted from somewhere in the house, male voices, angry Italian, something shattering. Isabella's face went pale. Stay here. But I was already moving, following the sound to what looked like Dante's office. The door was cracked open, and through it I could see him face thunderous, veins standing out in his neck as he screamed at two men who stood with their heads bowed. Incompetent bastardi. He swept everything off his desk: papers, laptop, crystal tumbler that exploded against the wall. My brother nearly died because you couldn't do the one job I pay you for. Boss, we had no warning. Dante moved with terrifying speed, grabbing the man by the throat and slamming him against the wall. No warning? The Russos have been moving weapons for weeks. I had intel. I gave you locations. And you did what with that information? We were watching, but they moved faster. Then you should have moved faster. He released the man, who crumpled to the floor, gasping. Get out, both of you. You have 24 hours to bring me Alessandro Russo's location, or you're done. And done in this family has a very permanent definition. They scrambled out, nearly running into me in the doorway. Dante froze when he saw me. For a moment, the rage remained, his chest heaving, hands still clenched into fists. Then something shifted, the violence banking but not, disappearing. How much did you hear? His voice was carefully controlled. Enough. I stepped into the room, glass crunching under my shoes. Is this who you are? Violence and threats? Yes. He didn't sugarcoat it, didn't apologize. This is who I am. This is what I do. I hurt people who threaten my family. I terrify people into submission. I rule through fear and respect, and I don't lose sleep over it. Then why do you have Keats and Neruda in your library? The question caught him off guard. What? Pablo Neruda. I love you without knowing how or when or from where. You have the entire collection, Dante. Worn spines, dog-eared pages, and Keats' bright star, would I were steadfast as thou art. Those aren't the books of a monster. Something cracked in his expression. I contain multitudes, Sophia. The monster who just threatened those men is the same person who reads poetry at 3 a.m. because I can't sleep for the nightmares. Both are real. Both are me. I stepped closer, careful of the broken glass. Show me. Show you what? The man who reads poetry. The one you hide behind the violence. Why would I do that? Because I kissed you last night. My voice dropped to a whisper. Because I'm still here. Because some part of me wants to understand you, even though my logical brain is screaming to run. He closed the distance between us in 2 strides, his hands framing my face with a gentleness that contradicted the rage from moments before. My father started grooming me for this life when I was 6 years old, he said quietly. He taught me that emotion was weakness, that love made you vulnerable, that the only thing that mattered was power and respect. By the time I was 15, I'd killed my first man. By 20, I was running operations. By 25, I was the boss. His thumb traced my cheekbone. And in all those years, through all that blood and violence, I never felt anything. Not real emotion. Not until I looked up and saw a waitress with green eyes who refused to be intimidated by me. Dante, you asked what I want from you? His forehead pressed to mine. I want you to save me, Sophia. I want you to remind me that I'm more than what my father made me. I want to be the man who reads poetry with you, not just the monster who runs the city. I can't save you. Only you can do that. Then help me. His voice broke slightly. Help me remember how to be human. The vulnerability in his eyes undid me. This beautiful, dangerous man was offering me something precious, his real self, beyond the violence and control. I kissed him softly, feeling him shudder against me. Okay, I whispered against his lips. But you have to let me in, all the way. No more secrets. Deal. He deepened the kiss, and I felt the tension drain from his body. Thank you, Piccola, for not running. The day's not over yet. His laugh was real, genuine, transforming his face into something breathtaking. Then his phone rang sharp. Urgent, he answered, his expression darkening with each second. When? A pause. How many casualties? Another pause. Lock down the estate. Nobody in or out without my authorization. He hung up, his hands tightening on my waist. What happened? The Russos just bombed one of my warehouses. 4 dead, dozens injured. His eyes met mine, and I saw cold calculation replacing the warmth from moments before. And they sent another message about you, specifically about what they're going to do to you if I don't give them what they want. What do they want? Everything. His jaw clenched. But they're not getting it. They're not getting anything. Especially you. Dante, maybe you should just... No. His voice turned to steel. I don't negotiate with terrorists. I eliminate them. And the Russo family just signed their death warrant. He kissed me once, hard and possessive. Stay in the house. Don't leave for any reason. Promise me. I promise, but I have to go. He was already moving toward the door, his entire demeanor shifting into something cold and dangerous. I'll be back tonight. We'll finish this conversation then. Dante, wait. He paused in the doorway, looking back. What? Be careful. Please. The smile he gave me was dark, lethal. Careful is for people who have something to lose, Piccola. I lost my soul a long time ago. Now I'm just collecting the pieces. Then he was gone, and I stood in the destroyed office, understanding with terrifying clarity that I'd fallen for a man who might not survive his own darkness. And worse, I wasn't sure I could live without him anymore. The estate became a fortress within a fortress. By evening, armed men patrolled the perimeter. Security cameras multiplied overnight. Rosa locked all the windows personally, her normally calm demeanor replaced by military efficiency. This is standard procedure during conflicts, she assured me, though her hands shook slightly as she checked the library windows. Mr. Moretti has everything under control. But Dante wasn't back by 7, or 8, or 9. I tried to distract myself with books, with exploring the mansion, with playing cards with Arya, who seemed determined to teach me every game she knew. Isabella watched us with hollow eyes, jumping at every sound. This is what war looks like in our world, she said quietly when Arya went to bed. Waiting, wondering if the men we love are coming back. He'll come back, I said with more confidence than I felt. Probably. Dante always does. But one day... She shook her head. One day the law of averages catches up, and then you're a widow at 30 trying to explain to your daughter why Papa isn't coming home. At midnight, I gave up and returned to my room. Hemingway barely acknowledged me, too comfortable in his new silk bed. Traitor. I was brushing my teeth when I heard a crash from downstairs. Men's voices, urgent Italian. I ran, my heart in my throat. Dante was in the foyer, held, upright by Marco and another man. His white shirt was soaked with blood, his face pale, one eye swollen shut. Oh my God, I flew down the stairs. What happened? I'm fine. His voice was slurred slightly. Just a scratch. You're covered in blood. Most of it isn't mine. He tried to smile and winced. You should see the other guy. Actually, you shouldn't. There isn't enough left of the other guy to see. Get him to his room, Marco ordered. I've called the doctor. He'll be here in 10 minutes. I don't need a doctor. I need Scotch and Sophia. Not necessarily in that order. You need stitches, boss. And possibly a head CT. They half carried him upstairs to what was apparently his bedroom, a massive suite that made mine look modest. Dark colors, minimal decoration, a king bed he collapsed onto with a groan. Everyone out, he commanded. Except Sophia. Boss, out. They left, Marco casting me a look that said keep him calm before closing the door. I stood frozen, staring at this man who looked so different from the composed, controlled mafia boss I'd met days ago. He was bleeding, bruised, exhausted, and somehow even more devastating. Come here, Piccola. He held out one hand. Please. I approached slowly, sitting on the edge of the bed, up close, I could see the damaged split lip, bruised ribs showing through his torn shirt, cuts on his knuckles that suggested he'd done his share of the fighting. What happened? I asked softly. We found Alessandro Russo's location. I went to negotiate. His good eye met mine. I'm not going to lie to you, Sophia. I killed 3 men tonight, personally, with my own hands. Because they threatened you, and I don't allow threats to my family to go unanswered. You killed them. I should have been horrified. Instead, I felt something darker gratitude mixed with fear. Yes. He watched me carefully, waiting for revulsion. I shot 2, strangled the last one while he begged for mercy. I don't have any more. My hands trembled as I reached for the buttons on his ruined shirt. Let me see how bad it is. Sophia. Let me see, Dante. He allowed me to peel the shirt away, revealing a torso that was artwork and horror combined. Lean muscle marked with old scars, fresh bruises blooming purple across his ribs, a long gash on his side that was still bleeding. I pressed my hand to my mouth, tears stinging my eyes. You need the doctor. I need you. His hand caught mine, pressing it to his chest where his heart hammered. I need you to tell me you're not leaving. That seeing me like this, seeing what I really am, doesn't make you run. I'm not running. Why not? His voice was raw, vulnerable. You should be. I'm a killer, Sophia. I've done things that would give you nightmares. I will continue to do them because that's who I am. So why aren't you running? Because you read Neruda at 3 a.m. Because you protected your niece and your brother and me without hesitation. Because, beneath all the blood and violence, you're still the man who looked at me like I mattered. His jaw clenched. You do matter. You matter more than anything. That's what terrifies me. They know that now. Every enemy I have knows that hurting you destroys me. Then what do? We end this war. His eyes went cold, calculating. Tomorrow I'm calling a meeting of all the families. I'm making it clear that anyone who touches you, even looks at you wrong, dies, and so does everyone they love. I'm going to paint a target on my own back so big that you disappear by comparison. Dante, no. I'm not negotiating on this. He sat up with a wince, cupping my face in his hands. I'm not losing you because I was too weak to do what needed to be done. If making myself the villain saves you, then I'll be the worst villain this city has ever seen. The door burst open, Marco, with a white-haired man carrying a medical bag. Out, Dante ordered me gently. You don't need to see this part. I'm staying. Something flickered in his expression, surprise, gratitude, something deeper. It's going to hurt. I'm not going to be quiet about it. I'm staying. The doctor, Antonio, he introduced himself, worked efficiently. Dante gritted his teeth through the cleaning of his wounds, the stitches in his side, the examination of his ribs. He swore viciously in Italian when Antonio wrapped his torso, but his eyes never left mine. Cracked rib, possible concussion, multiple contusions, Antonio said finally. You need rest, real rest. At least 3 days. I'll rest when I'm dead. At the rate you're going, that'll be sooner than later. Antonio packed up his bag. I've left pain medication, but I know you won't take it. Stubborn Coglione. Call me if the wound shows signs of infection. After he left, Dante tried to stand and nearly fell. I caught him, his weight pressing against me. I've got you, I whispered. That's supposed to be my line. But he let me help him to the bed, let me remove his shoes, let me cover him with a blanket. Stay. His hand caught mine, just until I fall asleep. I need to know you're real, that you're safe. I climbed onto the bed beside him, and he immediately pulled me close, his face buried in my hair. I'm sorry, he murmured, for dragging you into this, for making you see me like this, for not being the man you deserve. You're exactly the man I need, I said, surprising myself with the truth of it. Complicated and dangerous and impossibly gentle when you think no one's watching. His arms tightened around me. Ti amo, Sophia. I know it's too soon. I know you're not ready to hear it, but I need to say it. I love you. I've loved you since you corrected me and refused to apologize. I'll love you until my last breath, which given my lifestyle probably isn't that far away. My heart cracked open. Don't say that. It's true. But know this. Every day I have with you is worth whatever price I eventually pay. You're worth everything. His breathing evened out, his body finally relaxing into sleep. I should have left. Should have returned to my room, maintained some distance. Instead, I stayed in his arms, pressed against his damaged chest, and realized with terrifying clarity that I loved him too. This beautiful, broken man who killed for me and read poetry at 3 a.m. And I had no idea how either of us was going to survive what came next. I woke, wrapped in Dante's arms, his heartbeat steady against my cheek. Morning light filtered through the curtains, painting his face in gold. Asleep, he looked younger, almost peaceful. The violence of last night seemed impossible looking at him now. His eyes opened slowly, focusing on me with an intensity that made my breath catch. You stayed. You asked me to. I thought you'd leave once I was asleep. His hand traced my spine, a slow, possessive touch that made me shiver. Thought you'd come to your senses. Maybe I don't want to be sensible anymore. Something dark and hungry flashed in his eyes. Careful, Piccola. I'm not a good man. If you give yourself to me, I'll never let you go. I'm not asking you to let me go. He moved with surprising speed considering his injuries, rolling me beneath him, his body pressing mine into the mattress. His hands framed my face, his eyes searching mine for any hint of hesitation. Say it again, he commanded softly. Tell me you're choosing this. Choosing me. I choose you, Dante Moretti. All of you, the poetry and the violence, the gentleman and the killer. His kiss was different this time, deeper, slower, full of promise and possession. His hands moved with reverent certainty, learning the contours of my body through my clothes. When I gasped against his mouth, he swallowed the sound, his own breathing ragged. I want you, he murmured against my throat. God, Sophia, I've wanted you since the moment I saw you, but not yet. Not until this war is over and I can give you the time you deserve. Not until I can make love to you without worrying that someone's going to attack while we're vulnerable. That's very practical for someone kissing me like this. His laugh vibrated against my skin. I'm trying to be honorable. Don't make it harder. A knock interrupted us, sharp, urgent. Dante pulled away with a muttered curse. What? Marco's voice through the door. Boss, we have a problem. Alessandro Russo is here. Says he wants to negotiate under flag of truce. Dante's entire demeanor changed from tender to lethal in a heartbeat. Where is he? Front gate. He's alone, unarmed, hands visible. Could be a trap. Or it could be surrender. Dante stood, wincing slightly, and reached for a fresh shirt. Get everyone in position. If this goes wrong, I want overwhelming force ready. Dante, wait. I caught his arm. What if it's a trap? Then I spring it and kill everyone involved. He kissed me once hard. Stay in this room. Lock the door. Marco will be right. Outside. If anything happens, you run with him. Understand? I'm not leaving you. You will if I tell you to. His eyes were steel. Promise me, Sophia. Promise you'll run if things go wrong. The fear in his voice made me nod. I promise. Good girl. Another kiss. This one softer. I'll be back soon. And then we're going to talk about last night and this morning and exactly what you choosing me means. He was gone before I could respond. I locked the door as instructed, then immediately went to the window. From here, I could see the front gate and the man standing there tall, silver-haired, distinguished in an expensive suit. Alessandro Russo. The man who'd ordered the hit on Luca, who'd threatened me, who'd started this war. And Dante was walking out to meet him, flanked by Marco and 6 other armed men. Even from here, I could read Dante's body language, coiled violence barely restrained, predator approaching prey. They spoke, too far away for me to hear. Alessandro, gesturing calmly while Dante remained statue still. Then Alessandro pulled something from his jacket. Everything happened at once. Dante's men drew weapons. Alessandro raised his hands, revealing an envelope. Dante snatched it, read whatever was inside, and his entire body went rigid. He turned, looking directly at my window even though he couldn't possibly see me through the curtains. Then he ran. I heard him taking the stairs 3 at a time, heard Marco shouting orders, heard the pounding of multiple footsteps. The door burst open. I'd barely unlocked it and Dante was there, his face ashen. You need to see this. He held out the envelope, his hand trembling. Sophia, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Inside were photographs. Me, from angles I didn't recognize leaving class, grocery shopping, sleeping in my apartment, dozens of them, spanning weeks. And beneath them, a note. We've been watching your little waitress for months. We know everything. Where she goes to school, her foster. Mother in Nevada. Her friend Emma. Her dreams of teaching. We know she's your weakness now. Imagine what we could do with that information. Imagine what we could take from you, piece by piece, while you watch helplessly. Or you could give us what we want. What do they want? My voice was barely a whisper. Territory. Control of the ports. Essentially, they want me to surrender half my business and acknowledge their authority. Dante's jaw clenched. If I refuse, they've made it clear you'll pay the price. So give it to them. No. His voice was absolute. I don't negotiate with terrorists. Dante, they'll kill me. They'll try. He cupped my face, his eyes blazing. But I will level this entire city before I let them touch you. Every resource I have, every man who owes me loyalty, every favor I'm owed, all of it goes toward keeping you safe. What did you tell Alessandro? I told him he has 48 hours to leave the city. If he's still here after that, I'm going to kill him, his sons, his brothers, and anyone who's ever shaken his hand. Dante's smile was terrifying. Then I'm going to burn his empire to the ground and build my nursery school on the ashes. You're insane. I'm in love. He kissed me fiercely. Which in my world amounts to the same thing. Marco appeared in the doorway. Boss, the other families are calling. They want a meeting. Set it up. Tonight. Every family, every boss. Dante's eyes never left mine. I'm making a declaration. What kind of declaration? The kind that starts a war or ends one. He kissed me again, softer this time. Trust me, Piccola. I'm going to fix this. After he left, I sat on the bed, staring at the photographs of myself, and realized something terrifying. I wasn't afraid for myself anymore. I was afraid of what Dante might do, what lines he might cross, what parts of his soul he might sacrifice to protect me. And I was afraid that I'd let him, because I loved him too much to stop him. The meeting took place in a warehouse by the dock's neutral territory, heavily guarded, where the 5 families had settled disputes for generations. I wasn't supposed to be there. Dante had explicitly ordered me to stay at the estate, protected by a dozen men, safe behind stone walls and security systems. But I'd watched him prepare suit perfectly tailored, weapons hidden with professional expertise, his face set in cold determination. I'd seen the goodbye in his eyes when he kissed me, like he wasn't sure he'd come back. So I'd waited 20 minutes, then turned to Marco. Take me there. Absolutely not. The boss would kill me. The boss is about to start a war because of me. I deserve to see it. I met his eyes. Please, Marco. I'm going with or without you. At least with you, I'll be protected. He'd cursed in 3 languages, but he'd taken me. Now I stood in the shadows of the warehouse rafters, hidden but able to see everything below. The 5 families sat around a massive table, representatives from the Morettis, Russos, Cardellis, Benedettis, and Costas. Old men mostly, some with sons flanking them, all radiating the kind of power that came from decades of violence and control. Dante sat at the head, young compared to the others but commanding the room absolutely. Alessandro Russo sat opposite him, confident, smiling. Thank you all for coming, Dante began, his voice carrying effortlessly. We're here to discuss the situation with the Russo family and reach a resolution. Resolution? Alessandro laughed. You mean you're here to surrender your ports and acknowledge your weakness? I'm here to make a declaration. Dante stood, and the room went silent. The woman you've threatened, Sofia Romano, is under my protection. She is mine in every way that matters, and I'm making it clear any family that touches her, threatens her, even speaks her name without respect, will be declaring war not just on me, but on the Moretti family and anyone who stands with us. For a waitress? One of the Cardelli sons sneered. You'd start a war over some nobody? Dante moved so fast I almost missed it. One moment he was standing calmly, the next he had a knife pressed to the young man's throat. Say that again, Dante said softly, dangerously. Call her a nobody one more time. Dante. The elder Cardelli raised his hands. He meant no disrespect, but you must understand we cannot reshape our entire business around your attachment. Then you'll reshape it around my vengeance. Dante released the young man but kept the knife visible. I'm not asking for your approval. I'm telling you how things are. Sofia Romano is untouchable. The penalty for even looking at her wrong is death. The penalty for planning against her is the death of your entire bloodline. Alessandro stood slowly. You're willing to die for her? Willing to watch your empire crumble? Because that's what will happen if you don't give us what we want. My empire was built on blood and fear. Dante's smile was lethal. If it needs to be rebuilt on love and war, so be it. I've spent my entire life being what my father wanted, what this city needed, what you all expected. For once, I'm choosing what I want, and I want her. Safe, happy, and alive to grow old with me. Then you choose death, Alessandro said coldly. For yourself and everyone you love. I choose her. Dante's voice rang out clear and absolute. Every time. Over business, over power, over everything. So here's what happens next. You have 48 hours to leave this city. Take your organization, your family, your memories, and go. If you're still here after that deadline, I will hunt you all down and kill you. No trials, no mercy, no hesitation. You're declaring war on us? Alessandro looked around the table. On all of us? Because that's what this is. If you attack the Russos, you attack the Alliance. The other families exchanged glances. The elder Benedetti spoke. We have no interest in dying for the Russos' pride. If Dante wants to protect his woman, that's his business. Agreed, the Costa representative said. We don't interfere in matters of the heart. Even violent, obsessive, probably insane matters of the heart. Alessandro's face darkened. You're all cowards. Fine, we'll leave. But know this, Moretti, your love has made you weak. One day, she'll be your downfall. Then I'll fall gladly. Dante's eyes burned with conviction. But I'll take you down with me first. Alessandro and his men left, the tension in the room finally breaking. The other families stood, offering Dante congratulations or warnings depending on their relationship. I started down from the rafters, my heart pounding. I'd just witnessed Dante choose me over everything, his business, his safety, his very life. But I'd also seen the looks exchanged between the families, the doubt, the calculation. Some saw weakness in love. Others saw opportunity. I was halfway down when I heard, in it a crack, sharp and clear. Gunfire. Dante's men rushed toward the sound. I ran faster, emerging into the warehouse just as chaos erupted. Alessandro hadn't left. He'd stationed men outside, at least 20, heavily armed, now pouring through the doors. It's a trap! Marco's voice cut through the noise. Get the boss out. But Dante wasn't running. He was firing back, taking cover behind a steel beam, his face a mask of cold fury. Then I saw Alessandro on the catwalk above, rifle aimed directly at Dante's back. I didn't think. I ran. Dante! He turned at my voice, saw Alessandro, understood the danger, but too late. The shot rang out. I felt the impact before the pain burning, tearing, stealing my breath. The floor rushed up to meet me. Then Dante was there, catching me, lowering me gently. His face swam above mine, contorted with anguish. No, 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 no. Sophia, Piccola, stay with me. I'm okay, I tried to say, but blood filled my mouth. Above us, Marco shot. Alessandro clean headshot, the man dropping like a puppet with cut strings, but I barely noticed. All I could see was Dante, this beautiful, terrible man who'd started a war for me, now cradling me while I bled out in his arms. Don't you dare, he whispered fiercely, pressing his hand to the wound in my chest. Don't you dare leave me. I just found you. You don't get to die yet. Had to. Protect you. The words came out weak. No, I protect you. That's my job. You weren't supposed to be here. Tears cut tracks down his face, the first I'd seen from him. You weren't supposed to take a bullet meant for me. Love you, I managed. Worth it. It's not worth it if you die. His voice broke. Nothing is worth that. Sophia, please. Hold on. The ambulance is coming. Just hold on. My vision was fading, darkness creeping in at the edges. But through it all, I saw him, my dangerous, devoted Dante, crying over me like I was something precious worth saving. Promise me, I whispered, my hand finding his face. If I don't make it, promise you'll keep living. Keep reading poetry. Keep being more than they made you. You're going to make it, he insisted. And then I'm going to lock you in my house and never let you out again. Sounds perfect. The darkness took me, but the last thing I felt was his lips pressing to my forehead and his broken whisper. Don't leave me, amor mio. I'm nothing without you. I woke to the sound of breathing. Not my own that came with pain, sharp and persistent in my chest, but someone else's, rhythmic and steady, close by. Hospital. The smell of antiseptic, the beeping of monitors, the scratchy sheets told me that much before I managed to open my eyes. Dante sat beside my bed, slumped in a chair that was far too small for his frame. He'd pulled it as close as possible, his hand wrapped around mine. His head rested on our joined hands, dark stubble covering his jaw, his clothes rumpled and stained with what looked like my blood. He was asleep, but even in sleep, his grip on me was possessive, protective. I tried to shift, and pain lanced through my chest. A small sound escaped me. Dante's eyes snapped open, red-rimmed, haunted, immediately focusing on my face with an intensity that took my breath away. Sophia. My name came out broken, reverent. You're awake. His voice cracked. You've been unconscious for 3 days. 3 days where I've sat here wondering if you'd ever open your eyes again. Water, I managed, my throat raw. He moved immediately, helping me sip from a cup, his hands shaking slightly. When I'd had enough, he set it aside and just stared at me like I might disappear. The bullet? I asked. Missed your heart by 2 inches, nicked a lung, cracked a rib, caused internal bleeding. They operated for 6 hours. His jaw clenched. You died twice on the table. Twice I had to stand outside those doors and listen to them bring you back. Tears tracked down his face freely now, and he made no attempt to hide them. This man, this powerful, dangerous mafia boss, was crying for me. I'm sorry, I whispered. I shouldn't have been there. No, you shouldn't have. His voice turned fierce. You should have been safe at home where I left you. But you came anyway because you're brave and stubborn and apparently have no sense of self-preservation. And I love you for it. God help me, even though you nearly died. I love you more because you tried to save me. Did we win? The question felt absurd, but I needed to know. The war? There is no war. Alessandro is dead. The Russo family has scattered, most fled the city. The rest pledged loyalty to avoid execution. The other families have acknowledged my claim on you and agreed to new terms that heavily favor our interests. His hand cupped my face gently. We won because you took a bullet for me and survived. We won because everyone saw that I'm not just the cold boss anymore. I'm a man in love, and that makes me both more dangerous and more reasonable. Depends on whether you're threatening what's mine. What happens now? Now? He leaned forward, his forehead resting against mine carefully. Now you recover. Then you move into my house permanently, not as my hostage or my responsibility, but as my partner, my everything. I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret choosing me. Dante, I'm not finished. His eyes bore into mine. I'm going to marry you, Sophia Romano. Not right away, I'll court you properly first. Let you finish school. Give you the normal relationship milestones you deserve. But make no mistake, you're mine forever. I knew it the moment you corrected me, and I've never been more certain of anything in my life. You're proposing while I'm in a hospital bed recovering from being shot? I'm stating facts. The proposal will come later, with a ring and romance and everything you deserve. His smile was tender, vulnerable, but I need you to know this isn't temporary. This isn't just protection or obsession. I love you, completely, irrevocably, insanely. I love you too, I whispered, and watched his entire face transform. Even though you're dramatic and controlling and you've completely turned my life upside down, I love you. He kissed me then carefully, mindful of my injuries, but with a depth of emotion that made my heart ache. When he pulled back, his eyes were shining. When you're healed, he murmured against my lips. I'm going to make love to you properly. In my bed, surrounded by poetry and roses, with no threats or war or blood. Just us. Just love. That sounds perfect. It will be. I promise you. Amore mio, every day with me will have darkness, but it will also have light, poetry and passion, protection and peace. I'm going to give you everything. A knock interrupted us. The door opened to reveal Rosa, Isabella, and Aria carrying balloons and flowers. She's awake! Aria squealed, running to the bedside. You scared everyone, Uncle Dante cried. A lot. Aria, Dante said warnly, but there was no heat in it. Isabella approached more carefully, her expression complex. Thank you, she said quietly, for protecting him, for giving him something worth living for beyond just survival and vengeance. Over the next week, I recovered slowly. Dante rarely left my side, managing his empire from a laptop in my hospital room. He read to me Neruda, Keats, even some Italian poets I didn't recognize. He brought me books from his library, meals from restaurants around the city, anything I wanted. But mostly, he just held my hand and looked at me like I'd hung the stars. "What are you thinking?" I asked one evening, catching him staring. That I'm the luckiest man alive. That somehow, against all odds, a brave waitress with green eyes fell in love with me. He kissed my knuckles. That I'm going to spend every day earning that love. "You already have it, unconditionally." "Nothing is unconditional, Piccola, but I'll take it however you give it." When I was finally released, Dante carried me from the wheelchair to his car despite the nurse's protests. "I can walk," I argued. "I know, but I nearly lost you. Let me carry you." Back at the estate, my room had been transformed, filled with flowers, books, soft blankets, everything comfortable and beautiful. But I didn't stay there. I stayed in Dante's room, in his bed, wrapped in his arms every night. Safe, loved, home. The cafe overlooked the same river where Dante had first asked me to have faith in him. Now, in late summer, it was even more beautiful sunset painting the water gold, music drifting from somewhere nearby. We'd fallen into a rhythm mornings together, afternoons apart while I attended classes and he managed business. Evenings reunited like we'd been separated for years instead of hours. I was happy, more than I'd ever been. "Sophia?" Dante's voice pulled me from my thoughts. "You're miles away. Just thinking about how much has changed. 3 months ago I was just a waitress. Now I gestured vaguely. "This? Mine." He supplied, his smile warm. "You're mine. And I'm yours. Completely." "Completely," I agreed. He stood, and I noticed his hand trembling slightly as he reached into his pocket. When he knelt beside my chair, my heart stopped. "I promised I'd do this properly," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "With romance and a ring and everything you deserve." He opened a velvet box, revealing a diamond that caught the sunset and threw rainbow light. "Sophia Romano, you changed my life the moment you refused to be intimidated by me. You showed me that I could be more than what I was made to be. You took a bullet meant for me and survived to love me anyway. Will you marry me? Will you be my wife, my partner, my everything, not because I command it, but because you choose it?" "Yes." The word came without hesitation. "Yes. Absolutely yes." He slid the ring onto my finger, and then he was kissing me, and the world was perfect. "I love you, amor mio," he whispered against my lips. "Today, tomorrow, forever." "Forever," I agreed. And in his arms, surrounded by the danger and beauty of his world, I knew that was exactly how long I'd choose him. Every day, every moment, always. Because love wasn't about being safe. It was about finding someone worth being brave for. And Dante Moretti was worth everything.